play Kirsten Stockman. So Kirsten is the protagonist of the piece, and she makes a discovery about a poison in the water supply to the town, which stands to jeopardise, first of all, the development of the resort, which is due to open on the day that our play takes place, and also, first and foremost, severely affects the health of everybody in this town. So it's a massive discovery. Kirsten is very headstrong, independent, fiery. She has incredibly strong ethics and beliefs, and her pursuit of the truth and getting the truth out there to the people of the town is what drives the drama of the play forward.
I play Petra Stockman. So Petra is Kirsten's daughter, very similar in headstrong, strong beliefs, obviously passed down from mum. And she's come up with her mum from London, so she's grown up in London even though her mum's Scottish, and come up when Kirsten started a new job, and she's kind of been put in a new school, new environment, brand new town. And at the beginning of the play, we touch on her still trying to fit in and the struggles of being a teenager in a new place at that age. And she also kind of becomes quite a vocal character in Kirsten's decisions. I think she has a lot to say about what her mum decides throughout the play, and she's very vocal about her opinions of the other characters too.
From the get-go, the stakes for the character are very high. Kirsten, the first scene, everybody is, all their focus is on getting the resort open. So there's a big launch going to happen this evening. And we talked a lot in rehearsals about it feeling like, the pressure's on, but people are really excited. This is a big deal for the town. It's brought lots of new jobs in. We're regenerating a town which has otherwise, struggled for a long, long period of time. And so it feels like, we talked about wedding day butterflies, so there's that kind of, so there's the domestic at play, like the first scene is us, real kind of urgency to get out the house, but all the while Kirsten is aware, she's waiting for these test results to come back. She has a gut feeling that there's something wrong with the water supply to the town. And so although she is pressing ahead with the events of the day, in the back of her head, she's constantly got this, there's this little red flag in the back of her mind, and she hasn't received the test results yet. By the end of scene 3, she gets the test results. So from then on in, with each scene that progresses, the stakes get higher and she meets more and more obstacles. And so for me, from an acting point of view, what I found incredibly difficult, and the challenge of, making Kirsten believable and truthful, is how do you pitch those progressions, and how do you, and also, physically it's quite a hard thing to do. It's quite an exhausting part to play, but also to constantly be aware that each obstacle that she encounters is thrown at her from people that she loves and cares about. So there's a kind of emotional dilemma as well as the kind of ethical issue. So she struggles with her daughter, on a mother-daughter relationship. She struggles with her sister because her sister, is a massive obstacle in order to get the truth out. She struggles with one of her very close friends, Benny Hofstad, who plays the journalist, who decides, to not publish the article that she and him have decided to write. Her father-in-law, so that there's this constant kind of like sway between the emotional and the kind of like the ethics of the piece, like what her pursuit of the truth. So that for me was the kind of to find the balance between the two of them.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Like what you were saying about the pace of the play, like it's so quick that it kind of reminded me when we were in rehearsals of when they talk about like doing Shakespeare and you have to like think on the line because you don't have time to kind of think. They say everything they think. And it was like that. It's like you don't have time to just sit as a character and play like the emotion of it. It's like everything is coming at a really fast pace, especially for Kirsten. But so that was like a struggle really, is to keep that pace going as well, especially because I'm off for quite a large portion of the play and then come back on when a lot has happened. So that was a big challenge, to kind of keep that energy up. But in terms of Petra, I think it was useful that Petra talks, like when I first got the script, Petra talks a lot about others. So it was really easy to see her opinions on everyone, because she has high, very loud opinions on every person that enters the space. And obviously there's been changes to the script and whatever, so there were a few lines before that really helped me establish, what she thought of everyone. But yeah, no, it's just been a good process to kind of work out pacing and attitudes to everyone, and different relationships in the space and how they change, like how, similar to Kirsten, people she trusts completely, change, particularly her granddad. And those are quite dramatic scenes, but that happened really quickly.
The whole play takes place over the course of, less than 24 hours.
So it's really...
So we constantly were talking about the timeline of the piece. So we'd sit and go, right, okay, we open and it's 8 a.m. Then Petra gets dropped at school, so it's probably just before 9. Then Kirsten goes to visit Benny at his office to give an interview, but by which point she's received this information, these test results from the lab. So then maybe we're like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and so that was really important for us, just to mark for ourselves at what stage of the day, where is the drama taking us.
Yeah,
that was quite helpful.
And I think that was helpful to add to the drama, because at times I think we felt like we were being, kind of dramatic or something, but actually, if you've got that amount of time, you'd react in huge ways. Like when we decide to go to the launch, I've just come home from school, and that's a very quick decision that I make to go and let's, kind of burst into the launch. But I think because there's that lack of time, it really heightens the drama of it.
Yeah, time has a huge tension over the whole piece, because there's such an urgency to get this information out into the public domain now. How do we best do that? How do we get the truth out there? And then, of course, all the sort of obstacles that are thrown in the way.
So the first scene's quite important for our characters, because we are establishing a lot of information. I think the audience is being hit with a lot of details, like that Petra's moved up here, that Kirsten's got this new job, possibly something about the tap water, because you do mention that, and different relationships with Benny, with Vonnie, etc. But I think the overriding theme for us in the first section is a mother-daughter relationship, and the kind of pushes and pulls of a single parent, relationship, and also a young mother, which kind of has a different dynamic than maybe someone that's had a child at an older age, and has had lots of family around them. They've kind of been together alone for a long time, and I think the first scene really establishes that to the audience, that they're a team. Even though they're kind of at it the whole time fighting, you see that they're very close. They talk about a lot. Petra swears a lot in front of her mum quite comfortably.
We spoke about them at points appearing perhaps more like sisters than mother and daughter, and that actually the age difference between them isn't all that big. There's only about 17 years, so it's, so it does change the dynamic between them. And because they have been on their own for so long, it has kind of been them against the world for the most part of Petra's childhood. And this is the first time they've come back to Kirsten's hometown. Petra's probably never been there, perhaps maybe visited. Vonnie, we don't hear a lot about my parents, Petra's grandparents. The only connection here is Vonnie, my sister, your auntie, and
Derek
Martin, my father-in-law granddad, who I don't really want her to have a relationship with. So there's a real kind of push and pull between the two of them. You I think, would like a relationship with Derek?
Yeah, well, I think for Petra, it's the only kind of male influence in her life, and also the only other kind of parenting figure. I don't think he's been a massive part of her life, but I think she kind of clings on to him because she thinks that can allow her to access a part of her life that she's had taken away from her because her dad's passed away and everything. And I think that Petra really enjoys that Kirsten doesn't want her to see Derek. You know, it's that young thing of anything that your mum doesn't want you to do, you automatically want to do.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of set up in the first going into the second scene too, is that hatred from Kirsten and the kind of secret text between her and her granddad anyway, which is an interesting dynamic and one that I think is in a lot of families.
And that relationship between you and your grandfather, we established very early on, Kirsten strongly feels that, you know, she does not want her daughter to have a relationship with this man, but it's also very difficult for her to stop that because she's 16, she's a young woman, you know, ultimately they live in a small town, she's going to spend time with them. She is spending time with them, and there's not a huge amount I can do about that. So I think there's a sort of, you know, and I don't want to push her away, so I kind of have to let it play out. But nevertheless, I do always make it clear to Petra that I'm not happy about it. And so through the course of the play, Kirsten's kind of loyalties and relationships that she has with the people closest to her, namely Vonnie and Benny, who are her closest, you know, sort of allies, who completely turn their backs on her when it really matters. And then we see Derek in the final moments of the play, in the last scene, where he has used the savings. So he's put money in an account for Petra, an inheritance, which I have known about, but I've never told Petra about. And then as the kind of resort falls into ruin because of the discovery of the contamination of the water and, you know, the kind of outburst that Kirsten has to the public at the launch night will make the public question whether or not, you know, do we listen to this woman? Does she, you know, do we believe her? So then Derek Kilmartin comes to the house and tells us both that he's used this money to buy most of the shares in the resort, and he now is the majority shareholder. And what he says, I am now the boss of the place. And leaves us and Kirsten with a, you know, huge dilemma whereby he says, he presents her with a contract and asks her to retract what she said about the contamination of the water and the fact that this contamination has been caused by Derek Kilmartin's business. So he says, you can have your job back. I can give the two of you a life that at this point in time in the play, they have no chance of, you know.
And no money.
No money, no prospect of any work in the town, you know, her, So does she sign this contract that Derek Kilmartin's asked her? Or does she stand for everything that she believes in and everything that she's told her daughter to believe in and give in to him and sign the contract?
Yeah, it's...
Which makes you aware of all the things that I have said about Kilmartin up to this point, you know, come true. It's like we finally see him in his true light.
Yeah, because I think at that point, there's an attempt from Derek as well to turn me on my mum. But I think because of that's been building in the play, and I realise that you're right, and there's just no way that Petra's like, you know, I think she must, you know, be in complete shock that this person has turned on her. But it leaves them kind of, I think it's interesting when plays do that, when they kind of come full circle, because we're alone again, like we were at the beginning, kind of, you know, and it's us against the world again, but now with even bigger problems than before. So, yeah, no, and I think that's really good for the acting and the relationship, working out the relationship, because it feels like there is a real team at the end. But it's a big decision.
What happens is that everything that Kirsten has kind of like, you know, all the characteristics, I guess, that you will have inherited from your mum are the things that, you know, I've sort of passed the baton on to you. And then ultimately it's Petra at the end going, you can't do this, Mum. Like, you can't possibly, give in to this man. Like, you're right. You've told me you're right. They've got that beautiful speech at the end where she stands up and it's almost like Kirsten 20 years ago. It's like
for sure. And it's that sort of young, it's not naivety because as a teenager, you're very switched on and clever, but I think it's more of a belief that you could do anything. And I think Petra really believes that just them two alone is fine. And I don't think it's that she's not aware of like the money struggles or whatever, but I think she thinks that the truth is more important than anything because she's inherited that from Mum. So Kirsten can't really complain because she's passed it all down.
But so aware of how heartbreaking that is for Kirsten. Yes, I have encouraged you to believe that you can make a change, but I'm not sure in that final moment if Kirsten truly believes that when she looks into her daughter's eyes and goes, life is going to be really hard from here on in if we rip this contract up. And, she says, it's really difficult being so alone. That's one of the last things that she says to her.
And Petra says, we'll be all right. We've got each other. So it's those two
which is
beliefs
so,
of kind of reality and, I don't know.
I mean, it's simple and true in lots of ways, but I think also ultimately heartbreaking because, it's... You can make your own mind up about, obviously the ending lets you make your own mind up about whether she would sign it or not. Does she rip the contract up or not?